Hey everyone, it's David Sirota. So an amazing story out of New Jersey. You thought Chris Christie was gone from the governor's office. Well, not exactly. Yes, there is a new Democratic governor in New Jersey, but Christie's legacy and his power continues to hold sway in a pretty amazing way. Maplight has just reported that former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is still able to block requests for public documents. In specific, he has used his power now, currently, even though he's not governor, to block requests for copies of his office's correspondence with a real estate company previously managed by Jared Kushner, who of course is President Trump's son-in-law. So you may be thinking, well, how does a former governor get to control public records? And that's what's amazing about this story. So let me give you some context before we get to exactly how he's done that. Chris Christie, when he was governor, was notorious for working to keep public records secret. His administration spent almost $1 million battling to keep public records secret in court battles and the like. Now, Christie issued a letter right before he left office that declared that any requests involving his office's electronic records would have to be handled after he leaves office by his own private attorney rather than by state employees and state officials. So think about that. Christie, right before he left office, issued a letter saying, my private guy, my attorney, the guy I designated from an outside law firm, gets to decide what gets released after I leave office that relates to my administration. That person who I designate gets to make that decision, not state employees, not nonpartisan state employees. My guy, Chris Christie's guy. And Chris Christie's guy is a very close friend of Chris Christie. It's a guy who was Chris Christie's personal attorney, a guy who was his attorney general, a guy he appointed temporarily to the U.S. Senate. He is the guy empowered to decide whether or not public records about Christie, relating to Christie, get released. And he has issued a letter saying that he is not going to release the public documents related to any correspondence between Christie's office and the real estate company formerly run by Jared Kushner. Now, there is evidence that there are documents responsive to the request. It's not like there are no documents, but those documents are not being released by Christie's private attorney, who is empowered to decide on behalf of the state of New Jersey whether those documents get released. Now, what would Christie's office be corresponding with Kushner about? I mean, that's the question. What we do know is that Christie's administration, his appointees at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, reauthorized a $33 million tax credit to the Kushner Company's struggling project, which was a mixed-use project, a skyscraper in Jersey City. So Christie's office, or at least Christie's administration and his appointees, approved a very lucrative set of tax incentives for Kushner's company. Was that part of the correspondence that's now not being released? We don't know. What we do know is that there are documents and correspondence that appear to be responsive to Maplight's request. Maplight asked for these documents, and that Christie's private lawyer, empowered by Christie to make decisions on behalf of the state, that Christie's private lawyer is not allowing to be public. Public records in the sense that they are government records. This is a pretty amazing situation. And I go back to it as a journalist. When I'm filing Freedom of Information Act requests, open records requests all the time, the notion of a private lawyer, an outside lawyer from outside the government, being empowered by the government to decide what is and is not public, what is and is not released to journalists, government records, is unbelievable. I mean, it's really hard to really fathom how New Jersey allows this kind of thing. But apparently this is the way it can work in New Jersey, now that Christie has issued that directive that all public records requests for documents about his own gubernatorial office when he was in office, that those requests are to be adjudicated by Christie's own private lawyer, a guy who had served as Christie's Attorney General, a guy who Christie had temporarily appointed to the U.S. Senate. A very close Christie colleague gets to decide on behalf of the public, on behalf of the state government of New Jersey, which public records related to Christie get released. Clearly, this is not a person who is nonpartisan or objective. This is a person who is very close to Chris Christie. This is not some career official in the civil service in New Jersey's government. This is somebody who has a close political relationship with Chris Christie, who now gets to decide, who gets to be essentially the gatekeeper for public records related to Christie's office, and in this case, records that relate to Christie and his correspondence with President Donald Trump's son-in-law. It is a truly amazing story from MapLight, a great scoop from MapLight about secrecy, and it gives you a sense of what journalists have to go through just to try to get basic public records. You can find it at MapLight. I'm David Sirota. You're watching TYT Investigates. Find all of our reports at TYT Investigates. They are linked on Twitter, and they're on Facebook, and they're on the web.